Hello everyone, and once again, welcome back to Psychology of the Strange. So there's been a lot of attention given to UFOs lately. First, the Pentagon releases videos of unidentified flying objects caught by pilots. Then, David Grush, a former intelligence officer, testifies before Congress that there exists a secret government program concerned with the recovery of alien crafts and even alien bodies. So what's going on with that? There's plenty of evidence in our skies that certain flying objects behave in ways that our current science cannot explain. And our own government will admit to that. But it's a different thing to assert that these objects, or whatever they are piloted or controlled by non-human visitors. We simply do not know what they are. Yet, what do you do when over 60 kids in Southern Africa report seeing the exact same thing on school grounds? And not just a strange craft, but also strange beings that they actually interacted with. Let's see what this is all about, and stick around until the end for an interesting twist and new information that was not available before. We're in the month of September, and the year is 1994 in Zimbabwe, Africa. We're on the playgrounds of Ariel School in Ruwa. Just outside that school, you'll see an area that has drawn so much attention that it received its own name on the map, Ruwa UFO. With the teachers inside, the kids are just having fun. They spend a lot of their time there on the playground, just doing exactly what kids do. Play. A student takes notice of a silver object that flashes past. What was that? There are, in fact, many reports in the region about something strange crossing the sky. Now it's unclear what they saw, but some describe the object as a fireball. Skeptics in the local media explain the sightings as nothing more than a meteor, or maybe the re-entry of a booster rocket that launched a Russian satellite that is now re-entering the atmosphere. It should be noted that an unidentified object had been tracked on radar starting in Mexico, across the Atlantic, and all the way to the Zimbabwe border by independent detectives. So the object is real. But according to the kids, something lands, and it's definitely no meteor, no rocket debris. First of all, because these things don't land. They burn up in the atmosphere or crash with a lot of fuss. What the kids see is something more exotic. It's an aircraft, and it looks like a disc. It also makes strange noises, like a buzzing or a swarm of bees. One kid says it sounds like a flute. So far, you could have lots of fun going through a whole list of things that this thing could be, right? But wait, because what happens next takes things to a whole other level. Little creatures come out. The kids describe them as being about 3 to 4 feet tall, with black, tight-fitting suits. They're smooth and soft-looking, with big heads and large black eyes. This description fits what is known as the Greys by UFO researchers, and has been reported for decades. So much, in fact, that it is now the stereotype of what we think of as aliens, and is very much part of our culture. So one criticism regarding this event is that the kids are only reporting what they were expecting to see, based on what an alien is supposed to look like. For example, this face of an alien, which first appeared on the cover of the book Communion by Whitley Strieber, who reported his own experience at the time, was published in 1987, so 7 years before the sightings at the Ariel School. And descriptions of beings with large heads and big black eyes appeared in the literature as early as 1893 in the works of H.G. Wells. It should be noted that in 1994, when the incident happened, the internet was still very much in its infancy, at least for public use. So it's very unlikely that these kids would have found out what an alien is supposed to look like from the web. And the kids did say that they had never seen pictures of aliens before. In fact, one even mentions that he didn't know that what he saw was supposed to be an alien. Of course, They still had TVs, movie theaters, and a library. So we don't really know what they could have unconsciously absorbed from them. But on that playground, these kids will never forget the face of these creatures, which looked very white, strange, like plastic. One description was of a face that looked artificial, as if it had too much Botox. At first, I wondered if this could have been a prank, with kids wearing masks, but the following changed my mind. These creatures don't behave the way you would expect a human being to behave. They glide, move in slow motion, seem to bounce when they walk, the way an astronaut walks on the moon. They go in and out of reality. You see them one moment, and you don't the next. What an elaborate prank that would be, right? Not to mention a bit tough to pull off. Now, believe it or not, things are about to get even more strange. So let's first play the devil's advocate here and see if we can explain this event so far. Schizophrenia. Was this a collective hallucination? If we were talking about one kid, we could consider the sighting a possible symptom of schizophrenia, even though it's rare in children. Other mental illnesses can include hallucinations as a symptom, but to argue that 62 kids had a mental disorder and that they generated the same visions, that is well beyond credibility. Drugs. Certain types of drugs, such as psychedelics like LSD, mushrooms, DMT, etc., would cause someone to hallucinate. But of course, I'm not about to argue that a school full of children somehow have ingested street drugs. So what about toxins? Food contamination or an environmental toxin could presumably cause someone to hallucinate. However, toxins will usually cause nausea, dizziness, and other physical symptoms, such as headaches or stomach aches, depending on the chemicals involved. But the kids did not report any physical symptoms that could be attributed to a toxin, and none of the teachers themselves experienced hallucinations. Okay, so let's see what happens next. One of the creatures actually surprises a kid. It moves too fast and appears just feet away suddenly, before it's even perceived to have changed position. Now, several of the kids become spellbound by those enormous black eyes, and that stare communicates with them, wordlessly. It's difficult to disengage from that stare. It's as if they're being hypnotized. The message that comes through is telepathic. What is it saying? That we do not treat our Earth properly, and the technology we are developing will hurt us. There's a feeling that these creatures are sad about this, and it's not a warning with suggestions as to what to do about it, but it's more of a statement. So what about the teachers? Well, they never had a chance to see anything. They were inside, and of course, they do not believe what the kids tell them at all. The entire event lasts about 10 to 15 minutes. Were they lying? There's a twist in this story. Decades after the event, one man, who was one of the kids at the time, claims that he was in fact responsible for the whole event. This is what he says happened. He is on that playground and sees a shiny rock in the distance, so he points at it and tells the other kids about it. From this point on, he says all the kids on that playground go hysterical and believe they're seeing a UFO. When I heard of this, I was initially disappointed. I mean, really? I guess that wraps it up then. Incident explained, right? And it's not very exciting. In support of this, consider the creatures that seem to shift in and out of reality, moving in strange ways. All that would be consistent with more of a dream-like experience than anything real. But 62 kids experiencing a physical craft, with some seeing beings exiting that craft and interacting directly with them? All that from what? A shiny rock in the distance? That makes no sense whatsoever. What do you think? Just let me know in the comments. I'm not done with this story, but while you're at it, subscribe and give me a like to support this channel. I'll be covering more strange stuff from the point of view of psychology and basic logic with, as always, an open mind. Now, when pressed further as to why the kids will continue to insist that what they experienced was real, this man who pointed at the shiny rock claims that they simply lied. All 62 of them. Okay, lying sounds like a better proposal to explain what happened, So we have the choice now. 62 kids lied about the event, or one man decades later lied about being responsible for an event that attracted a lot of attention and happened to wait this long to tell us about it. Let's be careful. There is such a thing as people looking for fame after they realize that they have an opportunity to capitalize on a well-known event. But we can't say for sure. He could be correct. So, were the kids lying? Dr. John E. Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist specializing in children, didn't think they were. He was, of course, trained to be able to tell whether people are lying, prone to fantasies, or mentally unstable. He flies to Zimbabwe, interviews the kids one by one, and believes them. He does receive a lot of backlash from Harvard due to his pursuit of UFO research, and that's never a favorite in academia, right? But he never sways from his beliefs that what the kids claimed they saw that day was the truth, pure and simple. The kids are credible, predictably suffer emotionally from their experience, show no signs of mental illness, and their stories are consistent. There's a couple of documentaries covering the event, and I'll link to them in the description below. So if you're really interested in what happened that day, I highly recommend that you watch these, especially the interviews with the kids. You'll see that they are, in fact, very sincere and even shaken by the event. John Mack then asked the kid, one by one, to draw what they saw. All the drawings show similar crafts, often with little beings around it. Despite the deviations you would expect from drawing to drawing that would reflect the individual point of view of each child, the consistencies are remarkable, and they all tell the same story. If you are still reluctant to believe that this event happened the way we are told it happened, then here's another explanation that has been offered by skeptics. Mass hysteria. Mass hysteria has a long history and refers to the transmission of a belief from person to person that something is causing them to get sick. And the fear of getting sick is causing them to have physical symptoms, which in turn confirms their fear, causing more symptoms. This definition has been extended to include obsessive behaviors and stress and hyperactivity caused by this fear. So, for example, someone spread lies about a deadly contaminant or virus that has been detected in the water supply, and this scares people into thinking that they may get ill. The result is that the fear of contamination itself spreads like a virus, and people come down with all kinds of physical symptoms, such as nausea, dizziness, headaches, general aches and pains and anxiety, etc. While the symptoms exist, the cause does not. Any strong belief or fear can have a powerful impact on the body and actually mimic a real illness. But can something akin to mass hysteria really explain the Ariel School UFO phenomenon? What the kids' experience were not physical symptoms, but a complex series of events, including, remember, full interaction with those beings. There's a famous experiment in psychology called the Asch conformity experiment. Here, a single individual can be made to agree that a particular line matches the length of a target one, when it is obviously false. Why? Because of peer pressure. Could this have happened in our case? One kid crying wolf could easily spread to others. But even in the conformity experiment, subjects revealed in the end that they did not in fact agree with the group, but just felt that they had to conform to the group. In the Ariel School case, you would expect the kids to at least eventually come around to question the experience. But they didn't. They stuck to what they saw that day, even when interviewed over 20 years later. Now, just before publishing this video, I became aware of new evidence in the Ariel School case. So obviously, I have to show it to you. The kids actually reported seeing UFOs landing on 2 different days in 1994, not just one. Thursday, September 15 at one site, and Friday, September 16 at another site. Photographer Gunther Hofer had inspected both sites at the time and found that at one of them, there was something really unusual about the ground. So he took pictures. which he only recently released to a UK-based newspaper. Why did he wait so long? I don't know, but it appears that the release of the documentary Ariel Phenomenon, which covers the event, compelled him to finally reveal this evidence. In one of the photos, there's a triangular indentation in the ground that could be the imprint of a landing pad. It took me a while to see it, but once I did, it did look as though something had created a significant dent into hard ground. Good evidence? Not really. Intriguing? Maybe. But more photos revealed that the grass there had been heavily pressed down. Obviously, something had flattened that grass. Exactly what the kids had seen one of the UFOs. Now I'm a little more than intrigued. We have physical evidence that something was there. The kids did not hallucinate. Fast forward 20 years later, interviewed as adults, the former students of Ariel School not only maintain their story, but the trauma from the event still follows them. They experience problems in relationships, both intimate and platonic, even with close family members, because no one believes them. Some even have to learn to simply keep quiet about the experience so as not to be ridiculed. Some develop PTSD. Others never stop painting what they saw again and again. They are all affected for life. What in the world happened at that Zimbabwe school in 1994? Isn't it time that we are more compassionate toward these individuals who have experienced something, that we believe what they tell us, that we spend more time investigating these strange events to get at the root of them, instead of resorting to ridicule because the reported experience is what? Too extraordinary? Is it complete fantasy to entertain the idea that beings from another world are visiting us, that civilizations who've had plenty of time to become technologically superior to us have crossed the vast distances of space? I will not draw a conclusion here. You decide, and you tell me in the comments.